Who would say that the fiercest battles don't happen in war fields, but within the families themselves? Especially when it comes to inheritance. That's exactly what a woman discovered when she came across a mystery that seemed out of a police novel. Where were the treasures left by her beloved grandmother? The answer, when it came, was as absurd as revealing. Just imagine, you lose someone who loved deeply, inherits not just memories, but objects that carry stories, and suddenly they disappear as by magic. This is what happened to Katia after the death of her grandmother, Elizabeth, a woman who dedicated her life to collecting invaluable pieces, from old clocks that marked the time of generations to delicate porcelain that shone like jewels in showcases. Everything should be hers. But reality, as we well know, loves to preach pieces. At first it seemed so innocent. The mother-in-law, Jean, appeared as a guardian angel, offering help to organize the deceased's belongings. "You are young, you have so much to worry," he said with a sweet smile as he packaged each piece with almost ceremonial care. Katia, grateful and overloaded by mourning and routine, accepted help without suspicion. After all, who would suspect a mother of family, always so helpful? The first signs that something was wrong came up as a murmur. One day, when visiting the mother-in-law to get a recipe, Katia spotted on the shelf the porcelain ensemble that her grandmother only used on special occasions. "Ah, this? I kept here for security," Jean justified, with a tone of voice that did not match his usual control. A week later, a photo on social networks sealed the distrust. The grandmother's silver candlesticks, the same that Katia swore to have seen last time at the deceased's house, now adorned the mother-in-law's Christmas table, with the caption, "Nothing like the brilliance of family relics to give the party's charm." That's when Katia's heart froze. They were not just objects, they were fragments of a life, a story that belonged to it. The wall clock that came from the great-grandmother, the birch music box with inlays that her grandmother opened just to show her, the gold detail crystal glasses that sparkled in the candlelight. All this, according to Jean, was temporarily under his care. But temporary had lasted months, and the excuses multiplied like ants. "It's better like that, you're still new to take care of these things, one day you'll thank you, I just want to protect what's yours." Even her husband, Dennis, who should be his ally, was initially skeptical. "Mother just wants to help, Katia. You're making a storm in a glass of water," he said, tired of another work trip. As if betrayal were just a matter of perspective, as if her right to her own inheritance were negotiable. But Katia was not naive. She knew that when someone insists too much on protecting what is not yours, it is usually because it already considers it as property. Armed with patience and a healthy dose of stubbornness, she sought a lawyer. And the truth, when it came, was liberating. The law was by his side. Those objects were not loans, they were not favors, it was hers, the final point. No temporary care justified misappropriation. With a detailed list in hand and the certainty that he was doing the right one, Katia waited for the right time. Dennis away from home, her mother-in-law alone, and a car key that wasn't yours, but would serve perfectly. The confrontation was as theatrical as it is predictable. Jean, seeing her determined, tried everything. The drama of chest pain, the crocodile tears, the appeals to gratitude. "How can you do this to me?" he whimped, while Katia, impassive, rescued a piece for the hideout that the mother-in-law thought she was safe. Each object found was like a punch in the stomach of lies, the candlesticks that were. The restore, the clock that needed adjustments, the music box that could damage itself in your home. Jean's alibi collapsed when, in a fury access, she took the phone and called her son, shouting hysterically, "Son, she came in here and is taking the things I stole from her." The words came out like a shot, no filter, no return. And the most ironic, the phone was on the lively. Dennis's answer was a verdict. "Mom, if you stole, she has all the right to get back. Return everything and apologize. I'm tired of cleaning your confusion." The silence that followed was deafening. Pale Jean tried to retract, but it was late. Dennis finally saw the scam. "Katia, take everything. And you, mother, no longer get in our lives." For the next 2 hours, while the objects returned to his legitimate place, Jean alternated between pathetic supplications and attempts to negotiate. "Leave at least the candlesticks, I have already shown to everyone," I begged, as if the value of things were measured by likes on social networks. But the worst was yet to come. When opening the back cabinet, Katia discovered a real arsenal of looting: paintings, statuettes, even an old samovar that she no longer remembered that existed. It wasn't just some things. It was a meticulous, planned, almost complete pile. Jean didn't want to keep the inheritance, she wanted to be with her. In the end, justice, one that does not depend on courts, but courage and determination, prevailed. Katia recovered not only her goods, but something much more valuable: the certainty that sometimes you have to fight for what your own is, even if the battle is against who you least expect. But what the process of withdrawal of objects revealed was even more revealing and revolting. Jean not only had separated the pieces with meticulous greed, she had already led them to an evaluator, planning to sell part of them to pay the renovation of her own home. Worse, she spread around, among acquaintances, that these were family relics inherited from her grandmother, a lie as blatant as she calculated. When the last item was carried in the car, Katia looked for the last time to the emptying of the mother-in-law. Jean, sitting in his armchair, whimpered about ingratitude, how no one understood it, how he only wanted the best for those objects that, she said, young people could not value. It was then that Katia, with a calm that froze the air, left her final sentence. Jean, the next time you decide to steal something, avoid two things: post photos on social networks and confess the crime on the phone. It is lack of professionalism. Back home, Katia returned each piece to her place, not as mere decoration, but as a restoration of a memory. The old clock gained prominence over the fireplace, the crystals shone in the glass cabinet, and the Carhide birch box again kept secrets on the carrier. When Dennis returned from the trip, the impact was immediate. For the first time, the apartment breathed history. It wasn't just a space, but a home with the past wires. He apologized for doubting her and admitted what he always knew, but never had the courage to face: Jean had a pattern. Since childhood, lent toys of neighbors without returning. Adult, perfected the art of confiscation disguised as favor. There was always an impeccable excuse: need repair, it is better to keep with me, it's just reform. The scandal had long waves. Jean tried to redeem himself: cakes, lame excuses, forced smiles, but the confidence, once broken, does not fix it with sugar. Dennis, in turn, outlined non-negotiable boundaries: no visit without warning, no interference, no temporary loan. And Katia, who was no longer patience for Palavra's half, began to supervise each one of them. 6 months later, Jean tried to repeat the trick with a neighbor, offering to save his hard porcelain collection. A reform. The neighbor, well informed about Jean's habits, refused politely. The rumors spread throughout the building, and his reputation as a reliable person collapsed as a castle of letters. Meanwhile, Katia's grandmother's collection was reborn. Each piece has gained a story to be told to friends during the afternoon teas. The 15th century clock, evaluated in a fortune, has become a symbol of family pride. The rare porcelain service attracted collector looks. Dennis, now irreducible, even suggested changing the locks, because, with Jean, precaution is never too much. Family meetings have become cold diplomacy exercises, protocol greetings, sporadic lunches under discreet surveillance. A year later, the story was repeated with another relative. Jean tried to take hold of a deceased aunt's jewel, but the family was already immunized against his tricks. The scandal was even bigger, and she lost his little credibility left. Katia learned a lesson that would never forget: rights are not asked to be required. Goodness is not weakness, and confidence is not a blank check for those who carry the same surname. Grandma's collection was still there, not as dust on other people's shelves, but as a living reminder that inheritance is not meant only on objects, but in principles, in honesty, in respect, and, above all, in the courage to say not when the world insists on taking what is yours.